The new monarch has officially been crowned, and now the near impossible task begins of King Charles III.
The coronation of King Charles III. It's been more than 7 decades since the last coronation of a British monarch.
The Grand Hall was still, the kind of quiet that carried the weight of centuries of history. King Charles sat at the center, surrounded by the familiar trappings of royalty.
One of the most memorable was back in 1994, but all of that didn't stop Prince Charles.
Ornate furnishings, polished silverware glinting under soft light, and the quiet shuffle of aides in the background. Everything seemed ordinary, almost rehearsed, as it often does in the world of royalty. But what no one realized was that a camera, tucked discreetly into the corner, was recording. At first, nothing seemed out of the ordinary, until it wasn't. A subtle gesture, a shift in demeanor, and then something completely unexpected unfolded.
Now if you watch that piece of footage when Prince Charles is asked, "Are you in love, sir?"
It was a side of the king that no official broadcast or carefully crafted speech had ever revealed. When he finally became aware of the camera, the room seemed to hold its breath. What he did next wasn't just surprising. It was the kind of moment that rewrites how history remembers a person. Early life and relationship with cameras. King Charles III wasn't always the composed and seasoned figure we know today. His journey to becoming a monarch was shaped not only by his royal duties, but also by a constant companion: the unrelenting gaze of cameras. From his earliest days, every step, smile, and stumble was caught on film. But how did this unyielding spotlight affect a young prince growing up in a world where privacy was a luxury he could never afford? Imagine growing up with the knowledge that everything you do is being recorded, not just for the family photo album, but for the world to see. For Charles, this wasn't just an occasional occurrence, it was his reality. From his first public appearance as an infant in the arms of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, cameras were always there, capturing moments that would forever define the heir to the throne. At just 4 years old, Charles was thrust into the spotlight in a way few could imagine. It was the coronation of his mother in 1953, a monumental event that brought global attention to the royal family. While most children his age were playing in sandboxes, Charles sat in Westminster Abbey, a miniature royal among the grandeur, as millions of people watched on television. Cameras zoomed in on his every expression, from his wide-eyed wonder to his occasional fidgeting. But how does a child process such an experience? Was he overwhelmed? Did he understand the significance of what was happening around him? These are questions that linger, especially when we consider how this constant exposure shaped his personality. As Charles grew older, the cameras didn't relent. His school days at Cheam and later Gordonstown became public fodder. Every trip to school, every rugby match, and even his struggles with Gordonstown's tough curriculum were splashed across newspapers. One has to wonder, how does a young boy find himself when the world seems intent on watching his every move? Did Charles long for anonymity, or did he quietly accept that this was the life he was born into? Historic events. If there was one moment in Charles's early life that defined his relationship with the public and the cameras, it was his investiture as the Prince of Wales in 1969. This wasn't just another royal ceremony. It was a spectacle meticulously crafted for the modern age, broadcast to millions of viewers worldwide. But what did it feel like for Charles? Was he nervous as he stood before the world? Or did he feel ready for the monumental responsibility that awaited him? The lead up to the investiture was grueling. Charles had to prepare extensively, including learning Welsh, so he could deliver part of his speech in the native language of Wales. It was a bold and thoughtful gesture, but it also added immense pressure. Every rehearsal, every stumble over a Welsh word, and every moment of doubt was observed and analyzed by those around him. How do you prepare for such a monumental event, knowing that your every move will be judged not just in the moment, but preserved in history? The ceremony itself was held at Carnarvon Castle, a setting steeped in tradition and history. Charles, clad in ceremonial robes and wearing a custom-made coronet, stood on a raised platform as his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, officially declared him the Prince of Wales. The cameras captured every detail: the weight of the crown as it was placed on his head, the look of concentration on his face as he delivered his speech, and even the fleeting moments where his nerves seemed to show. It's almost impossible to imagine the weight of that moment. Standing there, with his family, the Welsh people, and the entire world watching. Did Charles feel pride? Or was he overwhelmed by the expectations placed upon him? These are the questions that make this event so fascinating, even decades later. One thing is clear: the investiture wasn't just a ceremony. It was a turning point for Charles, a moment where he transitioned from a young prince to a public figure with real responsibilities. The cameras didn't just capture a royal spectacle. They captured a young man stepping into a role he had been preparing for his entire life. The emotional cost of being watched. But behind the grandeur and ceremony, there's a more personal story. Charles has often spoken about the pressures of being in the public eye. For a young man still discovering his identity, having cameras follow his every move must have been both a blessing and a curse. Did he ever wish he could escape the lens, even for a moment? Did he yearn for a life where his mistakes and insecurities weren't magnified for the world to see? The investiture in particular revealed just how relentless the media's gaze could be. Every gesture, every slip of the tongue, and every expression was analyzed and dissected by the press and the public. It's no wonder that Charles later admitted to feeling overwhelmed at times, not just by the duties of his role, but by the constant scrutiny that came with it. Despite the challenges, these early experiences under the camera's watchful eye taught Charles valuable lessons. He learned how to carry himself with poise and composure, even when under immense pressure. He discovered the importance of connecting with people, of using his platform to make a difference, and of finding his voice amidst the noise of public opinion. Looking back, one can't help but wonder, did Charles ever resent the cameras? Or did he come to see them as an inevitable part of his destiny? Perhaps it was a bit of both. But one thing is certain: those early years in the spotlight shaped the man who would one day become King Charles III. These moments from Charles' early life remind us that while the cameras captured his public duties, they also offered glimpses of his humanity. Whether it was a young boy curiously observing his mother's coronation, a student navigating the challenges of school, or a young man taking on the mantle of the Prince of Wales, these snapshots tell a story of growth, resilience, and adaptation. So the next time you see King Charles III on screen, remember, behind the polished exterior is someone who has spent a lifetime in front of the camera, learning, growing, and navigating the complexities of a life lived in the public eye. Candid interactions. What would you say if you unexpectedly found yourself face to face with the king? For many, that moment comes with nerves and excitement. But what's truly fascinating is how King Charles reacts when the spotlight shifts and the conversation turns personal. During a tour of Australia in the 1970s, a young woman in the crowd nervously blurted out, "You're much better looking in person." The cameras captured the moment, and Charles's response? A quick, charming retort. "Aren't you kind to say that? I'll have to carry you around with me." The remark drew laughter, breaking the royal mystique for a fleeting second and offering a rare glimpse of his quick wit. But not all candid moments are lighthearted. Consider the time Charles visited Aberfan, Wales, to honor victims of a mining disaster. As he stood before the memorial, laying a wreath, his face betrayed the weight of the tragedy. Cameras captured his quiet, reflective demeanor, revealing a man deeply moved by the sorrow around him. In that moment, he wasn't a king or a prince, just a person paying his respects. It's these genuine reactions that keep people watching. What will he do next? Will he make a joke or show a side we've never seen before? The suspense of not knowing makes these unscripted moments unforgettable. Environmental advocacy speeches. We've all heard leaders speak about climate change, but how often do those speeches feel truly heartfelt? King Charles has spent decades championing environmental causes, and some of his most powerful moments have been caught on camera, raw, passionate, and unfiltered. In 1988, during a speech to the European Parliament, Charles spoke with an urgency that was rare for the time. "We are not the masters of this earth," he declared, his voice trembling slightly. "We are its stewards, and we are failing in our duties." Cameras rolled as he delivered his plea, and while the audience listened politely, it was clear his message was ahead of its time. Did he know then how far-reaching his words would become? Perhaps not, but the footage remains a testament to his foresight. Fast forward to the COP26 summit in 2021. As world leaders gathered to discuss the climate crisis, Charles took the stage, his tone a mix of frustration and hope. "Time has quite literally run out," he said, his eyes scanning the room. The footage went viral, sparking conversations far beyond the conference walls. It wasn't just a speech, it was a call to action, captured for the world to see. Why do these moments stand out? Because they feel real. There's no polished facade or rehearsed charm, just raw emotion and a deep sense of responsibility. Watching them, you can't help but wonder, how much does he carry on his shoulders? And how far will he go to make a difference? Unexpected humor. When was the last time you laughed with a king? For many, it's an idea that feels almost impossible. Yet King Charles has a knack for turning even the most formal occasions into moments of unexpected humor. And when those moments are caught on camera, they're nothing short of delightful. Take the time he visited a bakery in Scotland. Invited to try his hand at kneading dough, Charles rolled up his sleeves and gamely got to work. The result? A misshapen lump of dough that looked more like a pancake than a loaf. Laughing alongside the bakers, he quipped, "Well, I won't be giving up the day job." The cameras caught every second, and the clip quickly became a fan favorite. Then there's the time he donned a pair of virtual reality goggles at a tech fair. As he adjusted to the disorienting experience, he joked, "I suppose this is the closest I'll get to disappearing entirely." The remark was met with laughter, and for a brief moment, the often formal royal felt approachable, even relatable. Even small, off-the-cuff remarks have a way of captivating an audience. At a charity gala, when a cameraman accidentally bumped into a table, causing a minor commotion, Charles smiled and said, "Don't worry, I've knocked over a few things in my time too." The simple comment turned an awkward moment into one of shared laughter, a reminder that even royalty isn't immune to life's little hiccups. These moments beg the question, what else don't we know about King Charles? What other quirks and surprises lie beneath the royal exterior? It's the unpredictability that keeps people intrigued, always waiting for the next unscripted gem. Unscripted moments caught on camera are more than just fleeting anecdotes. They're windows into the person behind the crown. They show us a man who can be funny, vulnerable, and deeply passionate. A man who doesn't always follow the script and who occasionally surprises us with his humanity. As we watch these moments, one thing becomes clear. King Charles is more than just a symbol of tradition. He's a man navigating the challenges of public life while staying true to his values. And in those unscripted flashes, whether he's cracking a joke, delivering a heartfelt plea for the environment, or quietly honoring a tragedy, we see someone who is, above all, human. The next time a camera captures him off guard, one can't help but wonder, what will we see? What story will the moment tell? And perhaps most intriguingly, what does it reveal about a king whose true self is only glimpsed in these rare, unfiltered seconds? Humanitarian work. What do you do when you're young, royal, and searching for purpose? For King Charles, the answer changed countless lives. In 1976, then Prince Charles founded the Prince's Trust with a mission to help disadvantaged youth. Decades later, this organization has supported over 1 million young people with training, education, and career opportunities. Cameras have documented countless moments where his passion for the cause shines through. One unforgettable instance came during a youth employment event in London. A young man, who once faced homelessness, stood up and shared how the Prince's Trust had transformed his life. The camera caught a rare, unscripted moment as Charles leaned in, visibly moved, and whispered words of encouragement. It wasn't just a royal obligation, it was a deeply human connection. Another widely shared moment happened during a charity fundraiser, where Charles personally chatted with young entrepreneurs supported by the Trust. He listened intently, cracked jokes, and even tested a gadget designed by one of the beneficiaries. The footage highlighted his hands-on approach, less about speeches and more about action. Personal touch. If you think royalty means aloofness, you haven't seen these clips of King Charles connecting with people on a personal level. There's something heartwarming about seeing a monarch set aside formalities to share a genuine moment with someone. During a visit to a flood-affected village in England, Charles was filmed speaking to residents who had lost their homes. Instead of sticking to prepared remarks, he waded into the muddy streets, shook hands, and offered kind words that brought smiles, and even tears, to the faces of those around him. In another instance, while touring a hospital, the cameras caught a light-hearted exchange with an elderly patient who jokingly offered to swap places with him. Charles laughed heartily, held the woman's hand, and replied, "You might regret that." The video quickly went viral, with viewers commenting on how his warmth brought a moment of levity to a serious occasion. Cultural engagements. What happens when a king steps out of his comfort zone? Sometimes it's pure magic. As someone who has visited over 100 countries, King Charles has a knack for immersing himself in local traditions. Cameras have captured him trying his hand at everything from wielding a Maasai spear in Kenya to performing a traditional Maori Hangi greeting in New Zealand. One of the most endearing clips comes from his trip to India. While visiting a rural farming community, Charles gamely joined a group of locals in planting rice, rolling up his sleeves and getting his hands dirty, literally. The cameras didn't miss the delighted cheers from the crowd as the future king laughed along with them. In Jamaica, another unforgettable moment unfolded when Charles was seen dancing alongside a local band. His moves may not have been perfect, but the joy on his face and the laughter of the crowd made it clear he was all in. The footage became a sensation, proving that even royals can let loose and embrace the moment. The pressure of public life. Imagine waking up every day knowing that the world is watching. Every step you take, every word you utter, and even the tiniest gesture can become a headline. This has been King Charles's reality since the moment he was born. For decades, he has lived under the unblinking gaze of cameras, documenting his every move. But has it been easy? Not at all. In fact, Charles himself has openly admitted that the constant attention can feel overwhelming. "It's like living in a goldfish bowl," he once said in an interview, perfectly capturing the suffocating nature of his life in the public eye. And it's true, there's no escaping it. Whether he's at a grand royal event or simply taking a walk, cameras are always there, recording every moment for posterity. The pressure of being judged for everything, from his body language to his choice of words, is immense. Take, for instance, his advocacy for the environment. While millions have applauded his efforts, there were times when his warnings about climate change were dismissed as alarmist. The cameras didn't just document his passion, they captured the skepticism he faced, amplifying both praise and criticism. This duality, the simultaneous celebration and scrutiny, has been a defining feature of his public life. Can you imagine knowing that a single misstep could define your legacy forever? But Charles's challenges haven't only been about grand speeches and royal duties. Sometimes it's the small, unguarded moments that attract the most attention. A misplaced smile, an awkward hand wave, or even an accidental slip of the tongue can lead to weeks of tabloid speculation. Over time, Charles has had to develop an almost superhuman level of composure, knowing that even the slightest falter could spark a media frenzy. If living under constant observation is one challenge, dealing with how the media portrays you is another beast altogether. King Charles knows this better than anyone. Cameras capture moments, but the media tells the story, and not always the way it happened. Remember the infamous pen incident shortly after Queen Elizabeth's passing? Charles was seen expressing frustration with a leaking pen while signing documents, and the moment was caught on camera. The clip spread like wildfire, with some calling him short-tempered, and others defending his human reaction during an incredibly stressful time. How would you feel if one fleeting moment of frustration became a defining story of your character? This wasn't an isolated incident. Over the years, Charles has experienced firsthand how the media can take a single clip and create an entirely new narrative around it. His relationship with Princess Diana is perhaps one of the most famous examples. Every interaction, every glance, and every word they exchanged was analyzed, often through the lens of scandal and controversy. Even moments meant to showcase his genuine personality have sometimes been misinterpreted. For example, during a public event, Charles was caught on camera joking with attendees about his big ears, a self-deprecating comment intended to break the ice. While many found it endearing, some tabloids spun it into a commentary on his insecurities. These examples highlight a harsh reality. When you're constantly filmed, you're no longer in control of your story. The camera sees everything, but it doesn't explain or contextualize. And once the footage is out there, the media decides how to frame it. Lessons learned. After decades of being scrutinized, analyzed, and sometimes criticized, King Charles has learned to navigate the world of constant media attention. And make no mistake, it didn't happen overnight. This level of adaptability comes from years of experience, reflection, and even a few mistakes along the way. One of the most important lessons Charles has learned is the value of authenticity. Despite the pressure to always present a polished, perfect image, he's come to realize that being human is what resonates with people. Whether he's addressing serious global issues or engaging in small talk with the public, Charles doesn't shy away from showing his genuine self. What's the secret to staying grounded when every move you make is under a microscope? Another crucial skill Charles has mastered is the art of staying composed. Over time, He has developed an almost unshakable demeanor in front of the camera. You can see this during high-pressure situations, such as state visits or tense political discussions. No matter what's happening, he maintains a calm and measured presence, fully aware that cameras are rolling and every word or gesture is being captured. He has also embraced the power of storytelling through media. While the constant filming might have felt invasive earlier in his life, Charles now uses it as a tool to amplify causes close to his heart. From documentaries on climate change to heartfelt public speeches, he's turned the camera from a critic into an ally. This shift in perspective has allowed him to connect with a global audience, inspiring millions while staying true to his values. While Charles's life might seem unique, there's something universal about his challenges. In today's world, many people experience a smaller version of this constant scrutiny through social media. A viral post, a misunderstood comment, or even an unflattering photo can lead to a wave of judgment. Charles's story reminds us that navigating public perception requires resilience, self-awareness, and a willingness to learn. What do you think this reveals about King Charles? Was it a rare glimpse of his true self, or just a reaction to the circumstances around him? Let us know your thoughts below. If you found this story intriguing, make sure to like the video, share it with others who might want to see this moment for themselves, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that uncover the unexpected. Don't forget to hit the notification bell, so you never miss a story that could change the way we see the world's most iconic figures.